Greetings, fellow cultivators. Welcome to Autonova. Remember to like and subscribe to support the journey. Now, let's dive into the next chapter of A Will Eternal. The cultivators from the three sects were virtually going crazy. Of course, they wished they could do something to stop Bai Xiaochun, but he was in an area of extreme danger that they didn't even dare to enter. They could only watch wide-eyed as the two turtles sped further and further into the zone of defensive spells. 3,900 meters. 4,800 meters. Before long, Bai Xiaochun was 6,000 meters in, a distance that none of the rest of the sects dared to attempt to match. 6,000 meters. Damn it, how could this guy possibly get 6,000 meters in? Doesn't that mean that he's going to get past the Dao River Court and have the first chance to get the legacy seals? As the cultivators of the three sects realized what was happening, shouts of astonishment and jealousy began to rise up into the air. 6,000 meters in, the magic was so intense that it fell like rain. At that point, Bai Xiaochun stopped for a moment, slowly lifted the edge of the turtle walk and looked out with eager anticipation. He could hear the shouts of astonishment coming from behind him, and it made him happier than ever. Even as he wallowed in his pride, the mountain of legacy seals began to tremble, and a legacy seal flew out. As it circled about, it got closer and closer to Bai Xiaochun. Ha ha ha, now nobody can even think of stealing it from me. Hey little legacy seal, come over here. Smiling broadly, he performed an incantation gesture with his right hand, and then waved his finger at the incoming legacy seal. Whoever was closest to the legacy seals obviously had the advantage, and at the moment, nobody was there to compete with Bai Xiaochun. The legacy seal shivered in place, then shot toward Bai Xiaochun, disappearing into the turtle shell. Got one, he cried excitedly, absorbing it. When the cultivators of the three sects saw this happen, their eyes turned as red as rabbits. That was especially true of the people from the Dao River Court. They poured power into their giant to try to get it to move forward, and even as they did, another legacy seal flew out and was grabbed by Bai Xiaochun. The rage of the cultivators burned hot and bright. Are you looking to die, Bai Xiaochun? This isn't fair, you're pushing things too far, Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun only began to hum his little tune louder than before. After resting for a bit longer under the turtle shell, he saw a third legacy seal, which he quickly sucked into the shell. I guess I'll just wait here and grab each one as it comes along. HMPH. Feeling more pleased than ever, and more awesome, Bai Xiaochun thought about bringing out his mirror to ask Imposter Nightcrypt how amazing he was. However, it didn't seem like a good idea at the moment, so he suppressed it. He was feeling quite comfortable underneath the turtle shell, grabbing legacy seals at leisure. However, the cultivators of the three sects were simmering on the point of complete madness. If things kept going the way they were, then Bai Xiaochun would likely pull off a miracle that would leave them humiliated more than they had been in years. That was especially true of the dozens of core formation chosen from the Dao River Court. The pressure on them was suddenly quite intense. The entire group went all out, causing the illusory giant to turn even more corporeal, and then carry them forward 1,500 meters in a wild sprint. The Polarity and Starry River Court cultivators also took various risks, gritting their teeth to shoot forward once again. The three sects advanced in grand fashion, with their cultivators using all sorts of magical items, divine abilities and magical techniques. They utilized everything within their power to try to head deeper into the danger zone. When Bai Xiaochun sensed the surge of energy behind him, and realized that the three sects were trying to catch up, his anger flared. This is my spot. I can't believe you people are going to try to steal from me again. Complete bullies. Gritting his teeth, he hunkered down in the turtle shell and started crawling forward again. The little turtle followed along, laughing in amusement. Time passed. As Bai Xiaochun crawled forward, he continued to grab the legacy seals as they flew out. Eventually, the Dao River Court reached the 6,000-meter mark. The Polarity River Court was right behind them, and even the Starry River Court had reached the 3,600-meter mark. All three sects had truly reached their limit, and yet, to their complete despair, Bai Xiaochun had already crawled up to the 9,000-meter mark. And he kept going. Soon, he reached 10,500 meters. Then 12,000. The distances involved left the Dao River Court in a state of complete hopelessness. The Polarity River Court was filled with bitterness, and the Starry River Court was going mad. One legacy seal after another flew out and was taken by Bai Xiaochun. All the cultivators were filled with a sense of indescribable powerlessness. 12,000 meters, this can't really be happening. As of this moment, the Starry River Court had 2 legacy seals, the Polarity River Court had 1 more than them, and the Dao River Court had the most with 5. All of the other legacy seals were going to Bai Xiaochun. To make matters even worse, Bai Xiaochun was loudly announcing how many he'd acquired. 31, 37, 43. The mountain of legacy seals was shaking violently. From ancient times until now, nothing like this had ever happened. No one had ever gotten so close to the mountain, or acquired so many legacy seals. Bai Xiaochun was completely elated. He even took a moment to look back at the cultivators from the other three sects, and felt more wonderful than ever. After that, he decided he might as well keep crawling forward. 47, 53, 57. Bai Xiaochun's voice continued to ring out as he got closer and closer to the mountain of legacy seals. The cultivators of the three sects felt as if wild beasts were trampling their hearts. As they watched Bai Xiaochun, their eyes burned with madness and killing intent. From the look of things, if they could, they would ignore the rules and simply kill him. Shut up, damn it, you're completely shameless. Cheater, I'm gonna kill you. Bai Xiaochun turned around and disdainfully lifted the back edge of the turtle walk to peer out at the three sects. Then he cried out as loudly as possible, do you people dare to come over here? We can have an epic fight. I dare you. Come on, I'm waiting for you right here. Saying such words was like pouring fuel onto the fire. The three sects exploded with rage, especially Chen Yunshan, whose face was distorted from fury. A moment passed, and then Bai Xiaochun sighed and said, why aren't any of you coming over? How about, you all come together? I'll take you all on at once. What do you say? Lord Bai is getting tired of waiting. Heroes are always so lonely. The scenery here is wonderful, what a pity none of you dare to come share it with me. With that, he grabbed another legacy seal. Bai Xiaochun was used to calling out the numbers by now, so he yelled, this is the 59th. After some thought, he was curious what it would be like even closer to the mountain, so he began to proceed forward again. At the same time, the cultivators of the three sects realized that they couldn't stay in their current positions safely, and began to move in the opposite direction. Of course, a scene of similar madness could be seen outside of the legacy zone. Sometime earlier, the river-defying sect's circle on the glowing screen had suddenly lit up. Frigid Sect, Crimson Soul, and Master Godwind were immediately delighted. After all, that glowing light represented the honor of the whole sect. Based on how bright their glowing circle was compared to the other three sects, they were able to speculate that Bai Xiaochun had acquired a single legacy seal. Even one makes this whole thing worth it, Crimson Soul thought, tightening his hands into fists. Not too far away, the red-haired old man from the Starry River Court felt his heart suddenly tremble. He even frowned, although it only lasted for a moment. Congratulations, river-defying sect, he said with a false smile. You got lucky and managed to get a single legacy seal. However, luck will only carry you so far in. Before he could finish speaking, the river-defying sect's glowing circle suddenly got a bit brighter. Then, only moments later, it brightened again. Soon, it was brighter than the Starry River Court's circle. The nascent soul patriarchs from the other three sects were shocked, especially those from the Starry River Court. How is this possible? The three patriarchs from the river-defying sect were also astonished, and exchanged incredulous glances. The red-haired old man's expression was extremely unsightly, and rage could be seen flickering in his eyes. All of a sudden, he felt as if the disciples he had sent into the legacy zone were completely useless. Even as he began to feel regret in his heart, the river-defying sect's glowing circle got even brighter. There were no rumbling sounds, but everyone felt as if their minds were crashing with thunder. The river-defying sect's glowing circle was getting brighter with indescribable speed. A moment later, and it surpassed the Polarity River Court. The nascent soul Taoist masters from the Polarity River Court couldn't prevent their expressions from flickering. Moments later, the river-defying sect surpassed the Tao River Court. The white-haired old man took a step forward to stare more closely at the glowing circles. Everyone had looks of madness overtaking their faces. The brightness of the river-defying sect's glowing circle was increasing so dramatically that it completely exceeded the imaginations of all present. It was so bright that it was almost painful to look at, as if it were the only light which existed. Even the light from the other three sects combined was completely and utterly crushed by it. What's going on? Don't tell me that all of the legacy seals are being taken by only one person from the river-defying sect? Impossible. Heavens, even when the Tao River Court took first place last time, the light wasn't this bright. How many legacy seals does that represent? The nascent soul experts from the three sects were all shocked. The red-haired old man from the Starry River Court was physically shaking, and his face was covered with an expression of utter incredulity. Maybe the circle got broken somehow, he murmured. The nascent soul Taoist master from the Polarity River Court was panting, and a look of unprecedented anxiety could be seen in his eyes. Originally, the matter of redistributing the resources wasn't very important to the Polarity River Court, especially considering the compensation the Starry River Court had offered to gain their support. However, if things kept going the way they were, that compensation wouldn't even make up for the losses they would incur. Now, in this moment of anxiety, their anger toward the Starry River Court was growing. If the Polarity River Court had such a reaction, there almost wasn't even a need to mention the nascent soul experts from the Tao River Court. They were all trembling, and looks of despair could be seen flickering in their eyes. If they didn't end up with more resources than they had in the previous competition, their decision to join in the Starry River Court's little plan would result in indescribable losses. Furthermore, the sect's diva patriarch would surely be furious. After thinking about the consequences at stake, one of the other nascent soul cultivators from the Starry River Court said, "Impossible. This is definitely a mistake." However, his words of consolation fell completely flat. The area outside of the stone spell formation descended into a deathly silence. All of the nascent soul Taoist masters were looking at the glowing circles, and it was completely obvious that the river-defying sect's circle was continuing to grow brighter. At the same time, the circles representing the other sects hadn't changed at all. Frigid Sect, Crimson Soul and Master Godwind were all dumbstruck. Even they had no idea what could be going on inside the Legacy Zone. "What is Bai Xiaochun doing in there?" Crimson Soul murmured, looking over in confusion at Master Godwind and Frigid Sect. Meanwhile, back in the Legacy Zone, the disciples of the three sects were howling in fury. Bai Xiaochun was currently 12,000 meters in, and continuing forward toward the Mountain of Legacy Seals itself. By this point, deep despair had taken root in the hearts of everyone present. From the first moment this Legacy Zone had been opened in ancient times until now, not a single core formation cultivator had ever reached the actual foot of the mountain. In fact, no one knew what dangers existed there, nor what would happen if someone reached that point. But now, everyone watched helplessly as the damnable and shameless Bai Xiaochun used his cheating methods to pull off a miracle. "It's not fair. I can't believe you can actually cheat the system here. Oh heavens, have you no eyes? Send lightning to smite this despicable Bai Xiaochun." Tears welled up in their eyes as Bai Xiaochun reached the 15,000-meter mark. He was now right at the foot of the Mountain of Legacy Seals. As soon as he reached that point, his jaw dropped. It felt as if he had just passed through a sheet of water, and he involuntarily stopped moving. Oh so carefully, he tilted up the edge of the turtle shell, and could sense that there was no lightning, no black wind, and no magic of any other type. Curious, Bai Xiaochun backed up a few meters, and sure enough, could feel the lightning and other magic battering the turtle shell. Then he moved forward a bit, and the sensation vanished. Under the despairing gazes of the crowd from the three other sects, Bai Xiaochun went back and forth a few times to confirm that the 9-meter area right beneath the mountain was free of any sort of defensive spells. Trembling with excitement, he slowly pushed the turtle shell off of himself and stood up, cracking sounds ringing out as he returned to his normal size. Then, he clasped his hands behind his back, flicked his sleeve, and stuck his chin up. Glancing back scornfully at the cultivators of the three sects, he said, "HMMMMMPH. Wanna fight with me? Who of you dares to come over here and have a duel to the death with Bai Xiaochun?" No one responded, but if looks could kill, then the gazes falling onto Bai Xiaochun would have chopped him into mincemeat. Seeing that nobody was going to say anything, Bai Xiaochun couldn't help but sigh like a lonely hero. Then he turned and looked up at the Mountain of Legacy Seals, which was so toweringly tall that he couldn't even see the top. "I wonder what it would feel like to touch it," he thought. After pondering the matter for a moment, he decided that it most likely wouldn't be very dangerous. Therefore, he cautiously reached out and tapped the surface of the mountain with the tip of his finger. Nothing happened, and he breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, the cultivators of the three sects simply stared with wide eyes. "I guess I have nothing to worry about." Flicking his sleeve, he planted his hand firmly down onto the mountain and prepared to boast a bit. However, in the moment that his hand landed on the mountain, rumbling sounds began to echo out. The ground began to shake, and the sky vibrated as the dozens of remaining legacy seals on the mountain suddenly began to blaze with light, and then fly into the air. They made a spectacular sight as they swirled about, each one radiating dazzling, multicolored light. The cultivators of the three sects were completely shocked to see so many legacy seals flying out at the same time, and many of them unleashed magics to try to grab them. Shocked, Bai Xiaochun was just about to pull his hand away from the mountain when suddenly, all of the dozens of legacy seals began to speed in his direction. He couldn't have evaded them even if he wanted to. He was like a black hole, and all of the seals were flying toward him, fusing into his body and merging with the seals he'd already acquired. As they combined, a mnemonic appeared inside of Bai Xiaochun's mind, a fragmented divine ability. Because it was incomplete, he couldn't quite make it out clearly. However, it was in that moment that the cultivators from the other sects who had acquired legacy seals earlier all began to scream. At the same time, their bodies began to twist and distort as the seals that they had absorbed earlier flew out from inside of them. How could this be happening? No, that's my legacy seal. Amidst the cries of shock and alarm, the legacy seals sped toward Bai Xiaochun and merged into him. As of this moment, Bai Xiaochun had 100 legacy seals. Each and every one of those 100 seals was inside of him, merging together. The fragmented divine ability was now complete and easy to see. Living Mountain Incantation. Bai Xiaochun's mind spun as the divine ability was imprinted into his mind. Even before the process was complete, he could tell that this divine ability was something completely shocking. Suddenly, an ancient voice began to speak inside of Bai Xiaochun's mind. Merge with the mountain, become a living mountain. Stand in front of the mountain and be called an immortal. 1. For any of you who didn't read ISSTH, or perhaps forgot, the character for immortal Xian literally depicts the character for person Ren squished to the side Ren in front of the character for mountain Shan. The voice started out as a mere whisper, but by the end, its words echoed like thunder. That was especially true of the final word spoken, immortal, which was spoken with heaven-rending, earth-crushing volume. Meanwhile, outside of the legacy zone, the river-defying sect's glowing circle was exploding with intense light. In fact, the light was so bright that it formed a pillar which shot up into the air. Heaven-shaking, earth-shattering rumbling sounds echoed out as the beam of light ascended into parts unknown. The nascent soul cultivators from the three sects looked on with minds reeling. If that were all there were to it, it might not be a big deal. However, as the river-defying sect's light grew stronger, the lights representing the Tao, polarity, and starry river quartz grew dimmer, until they reverted to their original appearance. The river-defying sect's beam of light had consumed the light from the three other sects. This is impossible. Something definitely went wrong. Majorly wrong. From ancient times until now, no one has ever lost a legacy seal that they had already absorbed. Looks of unprecedented shock appeared on the faces of the nascent soul cultivators, and it was with completely bloodshot eyes that they looked over at the river-defying sect's patriarchs. Frigid Sect, Crimson Soul and Master Godwind were looking on with wide eyes. They didn't have any idea what was going on inside the legacy zone either, but one thing was for sure, they couldn't help but feel strong reverence for Bai Xiaochun. What is your river-defying sect doing in there? This is wrong. The red-haired old man from the Starry River Court was trembling from the enormity of the situation. After all, the Starry River Court would be hard-pressed to deal with a furious Tao River Court and Polarity River Court. In fact, it was now possible to tell that only about a third of the anger of those two sects was directed at the river-defying sect, with the rest being reserved for the Starry River Court. Therefore, the only option left for them was to try to drag the river-defying sect down too. However, even as the words left his mouth, the sky above began to shake, and a gigantic, blinding figure of light appeared out of thin air. Instantly, intense pressure weighed down, and the lands began to quake. All of the nascent soul cultivators immediately clasped hands and bowed formally. Greetings, emissary. The figure of light looked at the temple in the middle of the stone spell formation, but despite the level of his cultivation base, he wasn't able to see exactly what was happening inside. Of course, he didn't really care about that. Although a divine ability was being secretly imparted to a legacy successor, that in itself wasn't a major incident. The Starry Sky Tao Polarity sect had a total of 300 secret legacies, and all of them were shocking in power. With the exception of a few dozen that were particularly powerful, it was hard to determine which ones were stronger than the others. If I remember, the Living Mountain Incantation is rated in the top 10 among the secret legacies. Unfortunately, it's far too difficult to cultivate, which is why it's virtually unheard of to see anyone use it. Now that I think about it, it's been tens of thousands of years since this arcane pocket realm was tamed and this secret legacy was left behind in it. The gigantic figure of light waved his hand, and ripples spread out across the sky like waves rolling across a sea. Today, he said, his voice rumbling like thunder, someone has mastered the Living Mountain Incantation. Listen ye of the four great sects. Within a month, inscribe this person's information onto a jade slip and deliver it to the Starry Sky Tao Polarity sect to be kept on file. With that, the figure began to fade away. The only reason he had come was because he had sensed the Living Mountain Incantation taking form. Having accomplished his task, he immediately returned to the Starry Sky Dao Polarity sect. As the enormous glowing giant disappeared, the nascent soul cultivators of the Starry River Court sat there with faces as pale as death. No longer did they try to accuse the river-defying sect of cheating. No matter what had occurred within the legacy zone, the emissary's words had to be accepted as fact. Bai Xiaochun of the river-defying sect had obtained a complete legacy, and had gained enlightenment of the living mountain incantation. Crimson Soul, Frigid Sect and Master Godwind exchanged glances, and could immediately see the excitement in each other's eyes. They even seemed to be sitting up a bit straighter than before. The Dao River Court and the Polarity River Court sat there in taciturn silence for a moment. Then, they both took the initiative to approach the river-defying sect. Congratulations, fellow Taoist Frigid Sect. Ha ha ha. The junior patriarch of your honored sect has gained enlightenment of the living mountain incantation, and even attracted the attention of the Starry Sky Dao Polarity sect. In the future, he will surely rise to tremendous heights. Fellow Taoist Crimson Soul, now I understand why you were so confident earlier. This kid Bai Xiaochun is really extraordinary. Now that I think about it, he really stuck out to me back when we came to visit you before. He's like a dragon amongst men. These nascent soul Taoist masters weren't currying favor. Rather, they were worried about how to explain the matter when they got back to the sect, and were hoping that the river-defying sect would bend the rules and not take all of their resources. Frigid Sect, Crimson Soul and Master Godwind were adept schemers, and knew exactly how to handle the situation. Suppressing their excitement, they decided not to mention anything about the resources. Xiaochun is a naughty and mischievous kid, Frigid Sect said. We're just as worried as you are about what's going on inside the legacy zone. The Dao and Polarity River Courts knew exactly what was being implied when the first thing Frigid Sect mentioned was Bai Xiaochun's safety. It's impossible to send messages into and out of the legacy zone, so it's hard to say what's going on. But don't worry, fellow Taoist Frigid Sect. The matter of the legacy seals is over. Everyone will be teleported out within the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Having heard this, Frigid Sect, Crimson Soul and Master Godwind were much relieved, and even began to chat randomly with the other patriarchs. As for the group from the Starry River Court, they sat off to the side, their faces ashen as they ignored the other sects. Meanwhile, back in the legacy zone, now that Bai Xiaochun had absorbed all of the sealing marks, the defensive magics faded away. There was no crushing pressure, no lightning, no black winds or seas of flame. In the blink of an eye, they were all gone. Bai Xiaochun was completely absorbed in the living mountain incantation when suddenly Bruiser bumped him. Looking around, he realized that none of the defensive spells were in operation, and the cultivators of the three sects were about 3,000 meters away from him, their eyes flickering with cold fury. The defensive spells are gone? Bai Xiaochun shivered, and then subconsciously took a few steps back. The looks being given him by the three sects caused his hair to stand on end. Hey there, fellow Taoists. You know, we're all Middle Reaches sects. We're on the same team. Even as he stammered an explanation, the cultivators of the three sects began to walk wordlessly in his direction, the coldness in their eyes flaring. Backing up, he continued, killing people isn't allowed. Don't do anything impulsive, okay? You definitely don't want to fly off the handle. Bai Xiaochun's heart was pounding. He could tell that their tempers had been riled up to the point of detonation. Plus, not only did they need to vent their frustration, they also coveted his turtle walk. Damn it, he thought, why did the defensive spells suddenly vanish? Trembling and on the verge of tears, he continued to back up. Listen, fellow Taoists, you guys all have big teams, but I'm all alone. Getting the sealing marks was just a matter of luck. I know you're feeling frustrated, but you were doing the best you could. Don't be sore losers. Come on, fellow Taoists, let's all calm down. I really didn't do it on purpose. Surprisingly, some of the other cultivators actually listened to his words and stopped walking. After all, the matter was over now, and fighting about it wouldn't solve any problems. However, it was still difficult to rid themselves of the fury which existed in their hearts. Seeing that his words were having some effect, Bai Xiaochun breathed a sigh of relief. He was well aware that this was not the time to get people riled up. Although it was true that anyone who killed someone else would be executed in punishment, if he lost his poor little life in the process, what good would that do? Just when he was about to continue offering some consolation, the little turtle suddenly flew up and landed on top of his head. Bai Xiaochun's heart instantly began to pound with a feeling of impending doom. Before he could say or do anything, the little turtle cleared its throat and then shouted, "It seems you people just don't understand. Listen, I'll explain what my master just said in a clearer way. What he actually means is that you people are a bunch of moronic noobs. How dare you try to fight with my Bai Xiaochun? Stop gawking and screw the hell off. His voice was so loud that no one could possibly not hear him. The cultivators of the three sects who had just been calming down suddenly felt their rage burning hotter than ever. That was especially true of the people from the Starry River Court, who immediately devolved into madness. Chen Yunshan was the first to give voice to his rage. Kill Bai Xiaochun. If we work together, we can completely exterminate him. As long as we do it together, there's no way our sects are going to do anything about it. That walk of his is a precious treasure. Kill him, and maybe the legacy seals inside of him will be available for the taking again. Although nobody quite agreed with Chen Yunshan's assessment of the situation, their killing intent was bursting. The rage which they had been suppressing had been ignited by the little turtle's words. Instantly, shouts of fury rose up as dozens of core formation cultivators all flew into the air toward Bai Xiaochun. It was a majestic sight as they unleashed all sorts of magical techniques in a deadly attack. That's not what I meant at all. Bai Xiaochun shrieked as he took to flight. He was no fool, and knew that no matter how strong he was, his undying Heavenly King Core and Heaven Dao Gold Core couldn't stand up to dozens and dozens of Earth Core chosen all at the same time. As for being screwed over by the little turtle, it only caused the hatred in his heart to grow. Tears were on the verge of leaking out of the corners of his eyes. Even as dozens of crazed enemies closed in, the little turtle popped its head out and shouted, "Bring it on, you idiotic weaklings. My master can beat you all single-handedly. Bring it on. If you think you have what it takes, then fight." "You shut up," Bai Xiaochun shouted. Then he reached out, grabbed the little turtle, and hurled him backward toward the crowd. "Kill him, all right," he screamed. "He's the one who said it, not me." The turtle shot through the air so quickly that nobody could possibly evade him, and with a smacking sound, he banged into the face of one of the cultivators from the Starry River Court. The cultivator was hit so hard that it nearly knocked his teeth out, and as he staggered backward, the black silhouette of a turtle could be seen on his cheek, complete with 4 limbs, a head, a tail, and a turtle shell. Then the little turtle whizzed through the air back to Bai Xiaochun. "What do you think?" he said, looking very proud of himself. "Is Lord Turtle awesome or what? HMPH, when Lord Turtle leaves his mark somewhere, not even a demigod can erase it." "A demigod? Did you hear that, you little punk? You're going to have Lord Turtle's mark on your face for all eternity." The cultivator reached up and felt the black mark on his face, and to his horror, realized that he really couldn't wipe it away. Heart-filling with even more anger than before, he spat the blood out of his mouth and once again began to chase after Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun's heart was thumping with pure fear. If he was being chased by a single person, he would definitely turn and fight. He might even try fighting if there were 2 or 3 people. Considering how heroic and incredible he was, he figured he could probably come out on top in a situation like that. After all, with the level of his fleshly body, it wasn't likely that only 2 or 3 people in the same cultivation level as himself would be strong enough to kill him. But when he looked over his shoulder, he saw dozens of core formation cultivators all bearing down on him with burning killing intent. From what he could tell, if that many people all attacked him at once, it wouldn't matter if his undying live forever technique was even stronger than it was, he would still lose his poor little life. Such thoughts filled his heart with both gloom, and also rage toward the little turtle. The little turtle didn't seem to think he had screwed Bai Xiaochun over at all, though. He flew along off to the side, eyes gleaming with excitement, letting loose a stream of shouting. "Ha ha ha, bring it on, bring it on. Ya bunch of wimps. Let's see if you have what it takes to kill my master." Then he lowered his voice to talk to Bai Xiaochun. "Don't be afraid, little Bai. They're just a bunch of wimps, right? Come, come, throw me back toward them again, I'll crush them to death." "Shut up, this is all your fault." Bai Xiaochun didn't dare to throw the little turtle back toward the crowd of cultivators from the 3 sects. When he thought about the enraged look on the face of the man who had been marked with the turtle, his heart trembled. As he pushed forward with greater speed, all sorts of dazzling magical techniques shot toward him. Ice mountains, lightning, seas of flame, twisting vines, hundreds of flying swords, and even a gigantic vortex-like wave of water. Although the pressure weighing down from this tide of magical techniques couldn't compare to the defensive spells from earlier, the sheer number involved created a shockingly deadly force. Unfortunately, the turtle walk wouldn't be of much help in this situation. After all, the restrictive spells from before had only blasted into the turtle walk, and hadn't attempted to lift it up. These people wouldn't just let him hide underneath and pretend to be dead. "I'm finished. Kaput. The mountain of legacy seals is gone, why hasn't the teleportation begun?" If it doesn't start soon, then I'm dead. He continued to speed along rapidly, the enraged roars of his pursuers echoing out constantly behind him. Don't you run, Bai Xiaochun. You were just blowing your horn a few seconds ago. Why are you running like a scared rabbit now? HMPH. You challenged us to fight before, and now we're giving you the chance. Stand and fight. Everyone from the other three sects was giving vent to their frustration, and their killing intent was so intense it caused brightly colored light to flash in heaven and earth. From a distance, the roughly 100 core formation cultivators were like countless streams of light shooting after Bai Xiaochun. That was especially true of the Starry River Court cultivator who had been branded with the little turtle mark. His heart was completely overtaken by rage. No matter how he rubbed at his cheek, he couldn't wipe the mark away. The odd looks given to him by people nearby were especially humiliating. I'm gonna kill you, Bai Xiaochun, he screamed, his voice rising up above the voices of all the other cultivators. Rumble. Bai Xiaochun dodged the flying swords, pierced through the vortex, and leapt over a sea of flames. However, a few lightning bolts managed to hit him, causing him to shake visibly. Bruiser, who was still nestled in the folds of his robe, struggled to get free, but Bai Xiaochun pushed him back. Stay put, there are some bad people out here. Unfortunately, the legacy zone wasn't very big, and core formation cultivators could move very quickly. As a result, they were already starting to run in circles. To Bai Xiaochun's despair, he found that the core formation cultivators were slowly getting closer and closer. Furthermore, the teleportation effect had not yet activated. Worse, the core formation cultivators were splitting up into 3 groups to try to surround him. He was really on the verge of going crazy. Eyes completely bloodshot, he shouted, "You people are forcing me to do this. Get over here, little turtle." When the little turtle heard this, his eyes immediately lit up, and he shot toward Bai Xiaochun's outstretched hand. Then, he let out a whoop as Bai Xiaochun tossed him violently into the air. A whizzing sound could be heard as the little turtle turned into nothing but a blur of afterimages. This was a type of speed that core formation cultivators couldn't match. In the blink of an eye, he had landed smack dab onto the right cheek of a burly man from the Polarity River Court. Rumbling sounds echoed out as the burly man screamed and staggered backward, blood spraying out of his mouth along with quite a few chunks of teeth. When he looked up, a black turtle mark could be seen on his face. It had a head, a tail, 4 limbs, and seemed very lifelike. The burly man's jaw dropped, and he reached up to rub the side of his face. When he realized that the mark wouldn't rub off, he looked over at the cultivator from the Starry River Court who had a similar mark, and then his eyes turned completely bloodshot. Roaring with rage, he shot directly toward Bai Xiaochun. In fact, he even unleashed some unique divine ability that caused him to suddenly accelerate past everyone else. Shockingly, it took him only a moment to be right in front of Bai Xiaochun. Time to die, Bai Xiaochun. The burly man extended his right hand, and a powerful core formation aura erupted, creating a huge vortex. At the same time, the indistinct image of a huge devil hand appeared behind him. Devil chi swirled out, pouring into the devil hand as it shot toward Bai Xiaochun to grab him. As it closed in, it grew larger, until it was fully 300 meters tall. Bai Xiaochun let out a shout as he waved his right hand, summoning a violet cauldron which instantly smashed into the devil hand. Intense rumbling sounds echoed out. This violet chi cauldron was formed by the power of a Heaven Dao gold core, causing the devil hand to collapse as soon as it was hit. The resulting shockwave caused the burly man from the Polarity River Court to cough up a huge mouthful of blood. Bai Xiaochun wasn't harmed in the least, and yet his anger continued to burn. Reaching his right hand up into the air, he shouted, "Little turtle." The little turtle immediately flew back into his hand, after which he strode over to the burly man and reached his hand back. "Now I'll give you another," he howled, then smashed the little turtle down onto the burly man's other cheek. Then he hit his chest, and before the man could react, had hit him in nearly a dozen other places. Blood sprayed out of the man's mouth, and his eyes burned with madness. Finally, he drew upon his own life force to shove Bai Xiaochun and then speed away, the madness in his eyes replaced by terror. As he fled, it was possible to see more than a dozen little turtle marks all over him. "Bring it on," Bai Xiaochun yelled confidently. Just when he was about to give voice to some taunts, more than a dozen magical techniques descended toward him like rainwater. The sight of so many lightning bolts, seas of flame, vortexes, wild winds and vines caused Bai Xiaochun's heart to seize with fear. Immediately, he fell back. A moment later, countless magical techniques slammed into the spot he had just been occupying. "You people are too brutal. Stop ganging up. If you have what it takes, come fight me one at a time." Drawing upon the undying live forever technique, and his powerful fleshly body, he continued to flee at top speed. Chen Yunshan from the Starry River Court immediately yelled out, "We have to team up to deal with a shameless villain like you. If we kill you together, it won't matter that we broke the rules." His words instantly bolstered the killing resolve of many in the group. Chen Yunshan, Bai Xiaochun yelled, glaring over at him. He had been targeting Bai Xiaochun from the beginning, and that left Bai Xiaochun feeling very angry. Seeing how he continued to try to incite the crowd, Bai Xiaochun angrily threw out the little turtle. "Hit him in the mouth. Shut him up." The little turtle sailed excitedly through the air. When he appeared directly in front of Chen Yunshan's face fell, and he tried to dodge. But he simply wasn't capable of evading the little turtle. A boom rang out as the little turtle slammed into his face, sending all of his teeth flying out of his mouth as he staggered backward. "Bai Xiaochun," he screamed. Eyes completely bloodshot, Chen Yunshan ignored the mark which had just been left on his face and performed a double-handed incantation gesture. Instantly, streams of starlight power descended onto him, giving him blinding speed as he chased after Bai Xiaochun. "Screw the hell off!" Bai Xiaochun roared, unleashing the mountain-shaking bash, sending him barreling toward Chen Yunshan with explosive speed. They were both moving incredibly quickly, but Bai Xiaochun had the advantage. As he closed in, he stretched out his left leg and tapped his big toe on Chen Yunshan. A deafening boom echoed out, as well as a miserable shriek from Chen Yunshan as he was sent flying. At the same time, golden strands appeared on the surface of his body, apparently some sort of restrictive spell that was boring into Chen Yunshan and sealing his flesh and blood. "You think a bit too much of yourself. One of my toes can send you flying." Bai Xiaochun's left shoe had exploded, revealing the fact that his big toe was flickering with golden light. Brushing off his robe, he produced a new shoe, put it on, then continued to flee. Behind him, the enraged cultivators of the Starry River Court helped the trembling Chen Yunshan to his feet. Even as he coughed up a mouthful of blood, he realized that his cultivation base had been sealed, making it completely impossible for him to use it at all. Eyes flaring with madness, he howled, "Fellow Taoists from the Starry River Court, set up the formation and kill this guy. Fellow Taoists from the Polarity River Court and Tao River Court, if we don't join forces and cut him down, how can we ever live down the humiliation of this day?" The cultivators of the Starry River Court exchanged glances and then nodded. Unleashing the power of their cultivation bases, they called upon the same stream of starlight they had used to deal with the defensive spells earlier, sending it shooting toward Bai Xiaochun with incredible speed. As that happened, the group from the Polarity River Court looked at each other, then howled, sending devil chi surging out to form a gigantic head. The vicious-looking head let out a fierce howl, causing intense pressure to weigh down all around it as it shot after Bai Xiaochun. The cultivators from the Tao River Court weren't any more willing to let the situation drop. If they did, they could only imagine what would happen upon returning to their sect. They wouldn't even be able to look anyone else in the eye. Moments later, intense rumbling sounds echoed out as the illusory giant appeared again. Howling, the giant began to charge toward Bai Xiaochun. From a distance, it was possible to see a stream of starlight, a gigantic head, and an enormous giant, all three of them deadly divine abilities, closing in on Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun's scalp was tingling so hard it felt like it might explode. "You guys are really serious, aren't you? I can't believe you're actually using spell formations against me." By this point, his undying live forever technique was in full operation, and he was flying along as fast as his Heaven Tao Gold Core could push him. Unfortunately, the combined divine abilities of the three sects were even faster than that. Moments later, intense rumbling sounds could be heard as the stream of starlight appeared in front of him. Bai Xiaochun trembled, and blood oozed out of the corners of his mouth. Before he could do anything else, though, the huge head closed in, spitting out a blast of frigid devil chi that surrounded him, making it almost impossible to move, and freezing the blood that spilled out of his mouth. Before he could recover, the giant unleashed a fist strike onto him. Boom! Frozen blood shot out of Bai Xiaochun's mouth as he was flung backward, his hair in wild disarray and his eyes completely bloodshot. As he flew through the air, he slapped his bag of holding, producing a fistful of medicinal pills which he hurled into the air behind him. Those medicinal pills contained all sorts of strange properties, and as soon as they exploded, they immediately caused problems for all the pursuing cultivators. Bai Xiaochun continued to flee, so nervous that he was bordering on madness. "Damn it, why hasn't the teleportation started? Patriarchs, I'm about to lose my poor little life." Tears welled up in his eyes as he watched the cultivators of the three sects building up another volley of divine abilities. "What are you scared of?" the little turtle said disdainfully. "I'm still here. Just throw me at them. They're just using some lame Dharma idols and magical projections, that's all. Lord Turtle has destroyed so many of those kinds of things that he can't even remember how many. Bai Xiaochun threw his head back and roared, "You people push things too far." A murderous aura erupted out from him as he reached his hand back and then hurled the little turtle out as hard as he could. Boom! The little turtle instantly appeared in front of the Dao River Quartz giant, which could do nothing to stop him. In the blink of an eye, he had pierced through the giant and was heading toward the Dao River Quartz cultivators who were operating it. This time, the little turtle struck a female disciple. She was the type of person who radiated an extraordinary air, and despite her killing aura, she was quite beautiful. But then, an enormous smacking sound rang out as the little turtle hit her right in the middle of the face. Tears leaked out of her eyes from the pain, and she let out an agonized shriek. Then, she realized that everyone was looking over at her with odd looks on their faces. Heart-pounding, she pulled a mirror out of her bag of holding, and when she looked at herself, she screamed in blood-curdling fashion. "I'm gonna kill you, Bai Xiaochun," she raved, her hair flying about in disarray. Without any hesitation, she shot after Bai Xiaochun as fast as she could. Unfortunately, he was far too quick and agile. The young woman's impulsive action instantly affected the other cultivators who were operating the giant. As for Bai Xiaochun, considering how effective this tactic was, he quickly grabbed the little turtle and threw him out again. Rumble. Then, Bai Xiaochun went crazy, constantly tossing out the little turtle to fight back against the magical techniques and divine abilities. Before long, more than half of his pursuers had little turtle marks on their faces, chests, waists, stomachs, and even some, on their rear ends. The mark of the little turtle was actually a very terrifying thing. Even if he hit their clothing, the mark would pass through and end up on their skin. The marks even glowed, as if they were worried that people might not notice them. Not even thick clothes or powerful magical defenses were capable of stopping the little turtle marks from glowing brightly. There was one young female disciple who got hit on the chest, and nearly collapsed when everyone looked over to see her and the glowing turtle mark there. People used all sorts of defensive magical items when the little turtle closed in, but they were all useless. The terrifying little turtle was causing everyone in the battle to go crazy. The divine abilities and magical techniques they were unleashing were influenced by their surging emotions, or perhaps by the turtle marks. In any case, they eventually just faded away. "There's too many of you for me to beat in a fight, but I can sure embarrass you guys to death." Bai Xiaochun was shocked, and initially felt that the little turtle was being too vicious. However, as soon as he thought about how these people were trying to kill him, he angrily yelled, "Little turtle, are you sure those marks of yours can't be erased?" "Don't worry," the little turtle said proudly, "not even a demigod could erase them." With that, Bai Xiaochun glanced back at the cultivators who had no marks on them, seemingly itching to get at them. "Great, they were the ones who pushed things too far, so they can't blame me for this." Gritting his teeth, he hurled the little turtle out again, sending him flying toward one of the unstruck cultivators. Those unmarked cultivators were currently hesitating a bit. However, they had convinced themselves that the marks couldn't possibly be indelible. In their minds, they would certainly be able to find a way to deal with them after returning to the sect. Even if they couldn't, surely someone from the elder generation would be able to help them. Therefore, it was with burning rage that they continued to chase after Bai Xiaochun. Booms rang out continuously as all of them were branded with the mark of the little turtle. Furthermore, all of their powerful divine abilities and magical techniques were faltering. The stream of starlight collapsed, followed by the huge head. Then the Dao River Quartz giant fell into pieces. The only thing chasing Bai Xiaochun now was a mob of enraged cultivators, all of whom had turtle marks on them. "I swear to the heavens, I'm gonna kill you, Bai Xiaochun. Damn it, if I don't kill you today, I'm not surnamed Lu." Bai Xiaochun's powerful fleshly body was being pushed to its limit. He was coughing up blood and covered with wounds, and yet, his counterattacks were incisive and penetrating. Whether it was his own attacks, or the little turtle marks, he had pushed everyone to the absolute limits of fury. Thankfully, it was in that moment that teleportation power began to fill the legacy zone. Beams of teleportation light began to rise up, and the mob of pursuers suddenly stopped in place. If they didn't enter those teleportation lights before the time limit was reached, they would lose their chance to leave, and not even their sects would be able to do anything to save them. As of this moment, they had to abandon any hopes of killing Bai Xiaochun. Having been forced to give up, they stared at Bai Xiaochun with such murderous glares that it seemed they were trying to cut him to pieces with their eyes. Bai Xiaochun breathed a huge sigh of relief as he leapt into one of the teleportation lights. Looking over his shoulder, it was with great pride that he looked at the little turtle marks glittering on all of his opponents. HMPH, you guys are the ones who pissed me off. When I attack, I frighten even myself. The little turtle looked at the crowd of enemies and seemed completely satisfied. He even appeared to be sighing. From the look of it, he was more proud of himself than Bai Xiaochun was. Thus, this episode comes to an end. Remember to like and comment so we can discuss the story together. Until we meet again in the next chapters.